Alright folks, welcome back. Let's talk about programming drums. I'd already done this entire video only to realize I forgot to press a thingamading and nothing recorded. So here we are. Anyways, I'm gonna write the riff here. It's gonna be something something like that, but we'll figure it out. My process for this stuff is very much broad strokes. So I want to keep my creative flow going as much as I can, so I don't get bogged down with details in this stage of the arranging process. Here is what my drums look like. This is Superior Drummer 3. This sounds like a kick. This sounds like a hi-hat. Oh yeah, buddy. So the way I like to do this is I figure out the rhythm first, and once I have the rhythm, I figure out what the notes are. And as I listen to it over and over, it sort of just starts to take shape in my head. Buff.
One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you smaller.
So this will all make sense as we go along. It makes sense to me, but it probably won't make any sense to you. A couple things. Here's something drummers like to do leading up to breaks. There will be a riff like this. All this here will be some chicka chicka danga do baf. And I want to get the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 because I got an idea. I'm gonna place a big bass or synthesizer on the downbeats, and then the guitars and the drums are gonna work around that. So nothing here lands on the downbeat of 1. Thank you, Carnival, by the way. If you know, you know. But yeah, here's a common drum trick where the drummer will hit the snare with his left hand, then he will hit the hat with his right hand, and then immediately after he will step on the hat, so you get a you hear this a lot. How do I know this? Well, I know how to play the drums. I learned when I was a teenager and I'm playing a bunch of bands and stuff like that. I can't play to save my life anymore, but I understand how it works mechanically, which goes a long way. And because I get some questions about how to program more realistic drums, learn how to play the drums. Just ask one of your drummer buddies. God knows they're all clamoring for human interaction. So just ask them, hey bro, teach me the basics. And they'll be like, what? Another person wants to talk to me? And it will help you. You can feed him some peanuts and a banana or something. I don't fucking know. I don't know what drummers eat.
One pill makes you larger.
Alright, jokes aside. Here's another thing that's good to do. If you ever seen a drummer play a hi-hat or a ride cymbal, you will know that they will play the first hit with their forearm or with their arm more, and then as they lift the arm up, they tend to hit again with their wrist. So you get this arm, wrist, arm, wrist, arm, wrist. And that gives you a where every other hit is much harder than every other. And I like to emulate this to get away from that the very mechanical sound. So every other I've just lowered the velocity. So these are all at 127 and these are at 95. And the way I would do that, just as an example, let's make a ride pattern. Alright, so I would just draw out my hard hits, then I would copy them and then just lower. And then I'll just listen to it until I have this sound that I want. So.
One pill makes you small, and the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all.
Oh, sexy fill, bro. Tiki-taka. So, good thing to know, these are just placeholder fills. I will humanize the drums towards the end. That's usually something I do at the very, very end when I know where everything else is going to be. Something you need to do, when I had copy-pasted all this, I had hi-hat going over the fill. No drummer would ever do that. Yeah, I know Nicholas Barker, Cradle Fill, fucking whatever. But yeah, if you're filling, you're probably not hitting cymbals. Unless you're in a very high speed metal band. So here it's going to be a little more straightforward. So I'm thinking the riff up to here is going to move around a little bit, bing ding ding dong dong dong, ba ding 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 dong dong. There will be a little movement melodically, but here I think it's going to be more hanging on the root notes.
When she's 10 feet tall. And if you go chasing rabbits,
And that verse is just the same as the one before it. Also, this fill is exactly like the fill before it. Again, this is just a placeholder. As I get deeper into this arrangement, I will start changing all that stuff. And usually what I do, I'll just like sit in air drum and like sing the drums, doom doom, you know, shit like that. And then I'll just like translate that into MIDI notes. And again, this is where like knowledge of real drums come in. And not that I'm great at this in any way at all, but knowing a little bit of how to play the drums really go a long way when it comes to programming drums.
Alice, when she was just small.
All right.
When men on the chessboard.
So here I feel like the vibe changes a little bit. It goes more into like rock and roll. So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go like a little more straightforward with the guitars and the rhythm and just like gang, 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 gang. Kind of Metallica, Black Album.
When men on the chessboard get up and take.
Also, worth noting, when you're not writing the songs, if you're guitarist, you write everything in E or B if you play 7th string or whatever you tune to. But we really like to write off the lowest note we have available. This song is in F sharp for the most part, which is really guitar unfriendly unless you play 8th string. But I didn't feel like this song needs to be that low or that heavy. So most of the verse is F sharp and G, and then here this is an E.
When men on the chessboard get up and tell.
That's an A. So I have a 7th string, so I'm just gonna, alright, fuck it, let's drop the low B to an A, and this will be my lowest note. So here, this will be real, boom, choke, 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 choke. And here will be like peak heavy in this song. And then, now that I have my tuning, I'll just like write all the riffs around what I have available. I love limitations when I write because it makes it so much easier. Nothing is worse than having no boundaries. So just like do whatever, man. And it's like, oh, I get nothing done. But the more frames I paint for myself, or the more frames I have for myself to paint in, the quicker the process becomes.
Tell you where to go, and you just had some kind of.
Oh, and one thing about the drum programming, so one way drummers, since this is heavy metal and everything is always at full volume, more or less, one way of creating more dynamics is like how open is your hi-hat. So here we have a semi-open, and here it's a little more open. It feels like it plays it a little more aggressive if we listen to just the drums. And you can really hear the tattoo, tattoo, tattoo from having like the harder hits and the softer hits. So that's one way of doing it, like how open is your hat. Like as I start recording the guitars for the verse part, I might make these hi-hats even tighter.
Tell you where to go, and you just had some kind of mushroom, and your mind is moving low.
Also, I do this a lot where I will just like listen to it and just sing in my head and see what comes out.
Go ask Alice.
Alright, so we're going to a crasher. A good thing to think about when programming drums. By the way, you have to take a shot every time I say programming drums. Hi-hat is usually played with your right hand, right? So this, that's going to be the right hand. And if we're then, again, as a way to create more dynamics in the drums or making it bigger, whatever, it's most likely that the drummer is going to play a crash on his right side of the drum kit. Of course, there will be exceptions to this, but 9 times out of 10, he's going to go to crash on the right side. So it makes sense to program the crash on the right side, because he's probably not going to play a cymbal with his right hand on the left side of the kit, because it's just like mechanically very awkward. Also, no self-respecting drummer, if there's such a thing. I'm kidding, I love drummers. Will probably not crash like Mark hits on the same crash as he's playing the beat on. So a good thing to do is like crash, and then the groove is on a different one. Also creates more space like in your stereo field.
I think she'll know.
Oh yeah, so the rhythm here goes back more to the verse, but like everything is way more open, right? So this will feel much heavier, much less tight.
When logic and proportion have
Also, that piano will probably go, mind you.
violins a bit bad, and the white knight is talking backwards, and the red queen's off with her
And because there's so little movement harmonically, it's just two chords right next to each other, and the very monotonal vocal, this opens up a lot for, I could either do a lot of movement in the guitar, but I don't want that because I want this to be heavy, but I will probably layer the living Jesus out of this with keyboards and filler guitars and stuff like that. There would probably be some kind of like a higher register guitar, or maybe a synthesizer, something like that, to create movement because there's room for it. In arranging, everything is about balance. If the melody is moving a lot, the chords probably can't move that much, or like you can't really move that much around it, or like if it's very rhythmical, what you put around it probably has to be a little more simplistic, and the opposite is also true. So when something's very simplistic, you can make more complicated rhythms around it, or melodies. That's not a trick you can use when there's, because this is like the climax, this is going to be the biggest part of the song. You can hit two cymbals at once. This is very common, like drums love to use like in the beginning of a chorus where they're really trying to emphasize something. And you will probably, with your left hand, play a cymbal on the left side, with your right hand, play a cymbal on the right side. So, left side, right side. So when this is all set up in the mix, that will give it a real nice, wide and open and big sound. Because like all of a sudden you have all those high frequencies on both sides, on both speakers. There's a little Lars Ulrich trick. Lars Ulrich loves to play cymbals or crashes on the snare drum. You know, drum lesson 101, you play the crashes on the kick drum, but Lars is like, fuck that, I'm going to play it on the snare drum. And because I listened to a lot of Metallica when I was a youngster, that's really etched itself into my mind, so I tend to do that a lot too. I feel like there could be quite a bit of onslaught of drums here, but all in due time. And then this song basically repeats itself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start tracking. This will be the next video. I'm going to start tracking rhythm guitars, figure all this shit out. I'm going to write the riff for the beginning, see if there's room for it for more than just in the intro. Not really sure what I'm going to do, because like, alright, so I'm going to write the dopest riff ever here, right? But then it never comes back because there's no room for it in the rest of the song. I might just take that out. Let me think about that. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Cool, bye.